There are blackouts in Kiev and other Ukrainian cities. Russian attacks on civilian and critical infrastructure have left tens of thousands of families without electricity and heat. We have no electricity, water or heating. I don't know how long we can hold out like this. The Ukrainian authorities have declared a state of emergency in the energy sector and appealed to residents to fend for themselves. Those who can are leaving the big cities and heading for the countryside, while others have to cope not only with Russian bombs falling on civilian neighborhoods, but also with the bitter cold. People are gathering in heated tents set up in the Ukrainian capital. I haven't had heating for 4 days. Everything in my house is frozen. That's why we come here. It's warmer here. The Ukrainian authorities are currently unable to repair the severely damaged energy infrastructure. Russia is the aggressor responsible for this war, for the attacks on ordinary people and on energy infrastructure. Every day civilians are dying as a result of Russian attacks. Russian attacks continued last night. The targets were once again power plants, heating plants and civilian neighborhoods. Attacks on infrastructure that provide civilians with heat during the winter, attacks by Russia, are a recurring tactic of the Kremlin, which consists of attacking heating plants during the winter so that people suffer from the cold. This is a clear violation of the laws of war, a direct attack on the civilian population in order to break the Ukrainians, a state. In Ukraine, the fight against the Russian invaders continues, but there is also another brutal fight going on for power, influence and money. The country's former Prime Minister, Yulia Tymoshenko, now a staunch opponent of Volodymyr Zelensky, has found herself at the center of a corruption scandal. According to investigators, she offered financial benefits to parliamentarians in exchange for voting as she directed. Agents found large sums of money in the office of the heroine of the Orange Revolution. This is yet another Ukrainian corruption scandal during the war. It must also be said honestly and fairly that wartime is also a time of great corruption, because it is possible to organize businesses that can later yield profits. This was the case with the Mindich scandal and the escape of Zelensky's closest associate through Poland to Israel. And this, unfortunately, is part of a larger problem. The flow of money from Washington to Kiev during the Biden administration was only stopped by Donald Trump after it came to light that most of the aid was not reaching the front lines or the people most in need. Now the USA is primarily supplying military equipment. Huge amounts of money, huge amounts of military, humanitarian and medical aid have been directed to Ukraine. And unfortunately, this aid is still in the hands of the same people who had problems with integrity even before the war. Unfortunately, opportunity makes a thief. Even at the highest levels of the Ukrainian government, corruption scandals are erupting which, especially in the current situation in the country, should never have happened. And they have, even among President Zelensky's closest associates. Recently, the former head of his office has come under scrutiny by the authorities. We know that the Ukrainian Anti-Corruption Bureau was investigating President Zelensky's entourage. One of the suspects was Andriy Yermak, who was dismissed and replaced by General Budanov. And there were some changes in Kiev. The changes came very late. While it is obvious that Ukraine is a vulnerable country, which Western countries support in defending itself out of geopolitical self-interest, we must also remember that it is struggling with such problems. International support for Ukraine continues unabated. For example, MiG-29 aircraft currently serving in the Polish army will be transferred to keep Russia at bay. However, corruption scandals involving the Ukrainian elite undermine the credibility of the state, eating away at the reasons Ukrainians fight for their country. Things only become worse when such corruption goes unaddressed.